The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rain. Thunder rolled outside as two women labored just a wall apart. In the private wing, silk curtains fluttered beside the bed of Mrs. Vivian Hartwell, wife to Chief Edward Hartwell, one of the richest businessmen in the city. Doctors hovered, machines beeped softly. Nothing was left to chance. In the general ward, with cracked tiles and a flickering bulb, Mrs. Zainab Lowell cried quietly, gripping the thin mattress beneath her. Her husband, Sadiq Lowell, a bus conductor, wiped her forehead with his sleeve. That night, two girls were born within minutes of each other. Both healthy, both beautiful, both destined for different worlds. A sudden emergency, a rushed nurse. Two identical hospital tags placed wrongly. And just like that, the daughters were exchanged. The Hartwell mansion rang with laughter when their daughter arrived home. She was named Vanessa Hartwell. From childhood, Vanessa had everything: designer dresses, a private tutor, a chauffeur who carried her bag. But wealth did something to her spirit. She grew sharp-tongued, impatient, accustomed to being obeyed. She looked down on servants, mocked classmates, and believed money was proof of superiority. "Why should I try?" she'd say. "Daddy will handle it." No one noticed how little she resembled her parents. No one questioned her arrogance. After all, rich children were expected to behave that way. Across town, in a cramped apartment above a noisy street, the Lowells named their daughter Nura Lowell. Nura learned early that life did not give things freely. She sold snacks after school, studied at night under candlelight, helped her mother cook and clean, but she was different. Her teachers noticed it first. "She's too brilliant for this environment," one said. Nura was kind, disciplined, and hungry for knowledge. She read borrowed books and asked questions no one her age thought to ask. When classmates mocked her torn uniform, she smiled and kept walking. "One day," she whispered to herself, "this life will change." At 16, Nura sat for a national scholarship exam, one meant for the country's most elite schools. Thousands applied. Only 5 were chosen. When the letter arrived, her mother thought it was a mistake. "She's been accepted into Hartwell Academy," the same school built and owned by Chief Edward Hartwell, the same school where Vanessa Hartwell ruled like a queen. And on the first day of school, as Nura walked through the gates in her borrowed shoes, Vanessa stopped dead in her tracks. For the first time in her life, she was staring at someone who looked uncomfortably familiar. Hartwell Academy was not a school. It was a kingdom. Students arrived in luxury cars, speaking in accents sharpened by privilege. Uniforms were tailored. Shoes were polished daily. Reputation mattered more than grades. And at the top of that kingdom sat Vanessa Hartwell. When Nura Lowell stepped into class S2 Gold, whispers followed her like shadows. "Scholarship girl. Look at her bag. She doesn't belong here." Vanessa didn't speak at first. She only watched. Then she smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. "So," she said loudly, crossing her arms, "this is the charity case Daddy's school accepted?" Laughter rippled through the class. Nura stood still, her fingers tightening around her notebook. "I earned my place here," she said calmly. Vanessa's smile vanished. The bullying began quietly. Nura's locker was accidentally emptied. Her books went missing before tests. Notes were hidden. Seats were taken. Teachers noticed nothing. Vanessa was untouchable. One afternoon, Nura arrived late to class. "Why are you late?" the teacher asked. Vanessa answered for her. She was probably used to walking slowly in her slum. The class laughed again. This time, Nura looked up. "And you," she said, her voice steady, "are probably used to people thinking money is intelligence." The room went silent. Vanessa's face burned. No one had ever spoken to her like that. It happened during assembly. Vanessa walked up to the podium with a USB drive. "Sir," she said sweetly to the principal, "we found something concerning on the scholarship student's locker." A photo appeared on the screen. Nura selling snacks by the roadside, old clothes, barely smiling. Laughter exploded. Vanessa folded her arms. "Is this the kind of student Hartwell Academy wants to represent us?" Nura felt her chest tighten. Her legs shook. But she didn't cry, she stepped forward. "Yes," she said loudly, "that is me. I worked so I could eat. I studied so I could be here. If that offends you, then maybe this school doesn't deserve me." The hall went dead silent. Even the teachers froze. Vanessa's hands trembled. Why didn't she break? Why didn't she bow? Why did this poor girl look so strong? That night, Vanessa couldn't sleep. She stared at the mirror. Same eyes, same nose, same strange feeling she'd had since childhood. Why does she feel familiar? She whispered. Meanwhile, Nura returned home, exhausted. Her mother hugged her tightly. Endure, she said softly. Gold is tested by fire. Nura nodded, but inside her something hardened. She would no longer just survive. She would fight back with excellence. The results were pasted on the notice board before morning assembly. Students rushed forward. Whispers started immediately. Wait, what? She's first? No way, at the very top of the list. First position, Nura Lowell's second position. Vanessa Hartwell. Vanessa froze. Second, she blinked, checked again. Second, her chest tightened. She had never been second, not once, not in her entire life. Behind her, students murmured. The scholarship girl beat her. So money really isn't everything. Vanessa slowly turned and looked at Nura. Nura wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. She just stood there quietly, holding her books. That quietness felt like an insult. Vanessa stopped talking to Nura completely. Instead, she started talking to others. Whispers in corners. Laughter that stopped when teachers passed. Plans made during cheerleading practice. Yes, we'll do it during rehearsal, Vanessa said calmly. Everyone will be there, no cameras. The plan was simple. During the final stunt, Nura would be lifted to the top. They would pretend to miss. She would fall. Don't worry, one girl said nervously. We'll catch her. Vanessa's eyes hardened. No, she said. Let go. The cheerleading hall was loud with music and clapping. Nura had never liked heights, but she trusted her teammates. Ready? The coach shouted. Nura was lifted higher and higher. Her heart pounded. Below her, Vanessa stood in position. For a split second, their eyes met. Nura smiled faintly, nervous, trusting. Vanessa hesitated, just for a moment. Then she stepped back, hands released. Nura screamed. She fell. Everything went silent. Nura lay still on the floor. Teachers rushed in. Students screamed. Someone shouted for an ambulance. At the hospital, doctors moved fast. She needs blood, one said urgently. Immediately. Her parents arrived first, panic written all over their faces. Then Chief Hartwell and his wife arrived too, shaken. Vanessa stood behind them, pale and quiet. Blood tests were done quickly. A nurse frowned at the results, then checked again. This can't be right, she murmured. The doctor looked up. The blood group, it doesn't match. Zainab Lowell's breath caught. Sadiq Lowell grabbed her hand. What do you mean it doesn't match? He asked. The doctor hesitated. The doctor cleared his throat. We need to do a DNA test, he said gently. Not to accuse, but to understand. No one argued. Some truths demand answers. Mrs. Lowell held her husband's hand. Whatever comes, she said, we don't lose our daughter. Chief Hartwell nodded once. And whatever comes, he replied, we face it as parents. Vanessa felt her stomach drop. Parents? Whose parents? Biologically, he said slowly, this blood is not compatible with the parents' records. The room went deadly quiet. Chief Hartwell felt something shift inside his chest. Whose blood matches her? He asked. The nurse swallowed. She looked at the other file, then up at Mrs. Hartwell. This blood, she said carefully, matches yours. Vanessa felt dizzy. Nura lay unconscious. And the truth, the real truth, finally cracked the room open. The doctor returned, holding files. We need to be honest, he said carefully. The blood type mismatch is not common. Zainab Lowell clutched her wrapper. Mrs. Hartwell felt dizzy. So what are you saying? Chief Hartwell asked. The doctor hesitated, then spoke. Biologically, Nura is not the Lowell's child. Silence. A silence so heavy it pressed on everyone's chest. Mrs. Hartwell's voice trembled. Then whose child is she? The doctor looked at the Hartwells. She is yours. Vanessa's knees buckled. No, she whispered. That's not possible. The hospital room was silent except for the steady beep of machines. Nura lay unconscious. Mrs. Lowell stood by the bed, her hands trembling as she brushed Nura's hair back. This is my child, she whispered. Blood or not? Mr. Lowell nodded slowly. She cried in our arms, he said. She grew in our house, that's not a mistake. Across the room, Mrs. Hartwell struggled to breathe. She remembered the day in the photo, the mansion, the car, the perfect life. And suddenly, another image formed in her mind, a small living room, a soft lamp, a baby held with patience, not luxury. Something broke inside her. Vanessa sat alone in the hospital corridor. Her hands were clenched so tightly her nails dug into her palms. "I didn't mean to let go," she whispered. But the truth echoed louder than her words. She had chosen pride over safety. And fate had answered. When she looked through the glass and saw Nura lying there, the girl she hated, the girl she envied, the girl who might be, she turned away, tears finally falling. Nura's eyes fluttered open. The first thing she saw was her mother. "You're here," Nura whispered. "Always," Mrs. Lowell said, tears spilling. Nura tried to move, then winced. "What happened?" No one answered immediately. Because how do you tell a girl, who fought her way up from nothing, that the world she thought she knew was never the full story? Nura had been home for only one night when her father called her into the sitting room. "Nura," Mr. Lowell said gently, "you need to understand something." She sat down slowly. "You were born into another family," he continued. "The Hartwells, they are your biological parents." The words felt heavy, but Nura didn't cry. She only nodded. "I know," she said softly. The next day, a familiar luxury car pulled up outside the Lowell house. The Hartwells had come to visit. They didn't come empty-handed. Food, gifts, envelopes. Mrs. Hartwell smiled tightly. "We're grateful for everything you've done," she said, "but now that the truth is out, we need to talk." They sat facing each other. Two families, two daughters, one impossible decision. "We believe," Chief Hartwell said calmly, "that the best solution is for both girls to come with us." The room went still. "We have the resources," he continued. "The money, the stability. We've already raised Vanessa. We don't want to let her go. And Nura, she deserves the best life possible." Mrs. Lowell stood up. "So because we are poor," she said, her voice shaking, "we don't deserve our child?" "This is not about love," Mrs. Hartwell said quickly. "It's about responsibility." "It is about love," Mr. Lowell replied firmly, "because love is what raised Nura." Nura sat frozen. Vanessa, standing near the door, said nothing, but her hands trembled. The debate went on for hours. Tears. Voices raised. Silence. Until finally, reality won. It wasn't fair, but it was decided. Each girl would go to her biological parents. Vanessa would leave the Hartwell mansion. Nura would leave the Lowell home. The day Vanessa packed her bags, she cried. She had never carried her own box. Never shared a room, never eaten without options. At the Lowell house, Nura hugged her mother tightly. "You raised me," she whispered. "That will never change." Mrs. Lowell kissed her forehead. "And blood didn't raise you," she said. "Love did." Vanessa's first night with the Lowells was unbearable. The room was small. The food was simple. The silence was loud. "Is this all?" she snapped. "This is how you live." Mrs. Lowell said nothing. Vanessa turned her face to the wall and cried herself to sleep. Meanwhile, at the Hartwell mansion, Nura sat at the edge of a massive bed. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. She missed noise. She missed struggle. She missed home. When school resumed, everyone knew. Whispers filled the hallways. "That's the rich girl who's actually poor. That's the poor girl who's actually rich." Vanessa struggled. She was late often. She had no driver, no allowances. Nura tried to adjust, but wealth didn't erase memory. When Vanessa saw Nura in the hallway, their eyes met. For the first time, there was no hatred, only confusion and loss. Life did not return to what it was, but it finally stopped hurting. After the girls returned to their biological parents, the silence between both families lasted for weeks. Everyone was adjusting. Everyone was healing. Then one afternoon, Chief Hartwell called a meeting. The Lowells arrived nervously, unsure of what to expect. "We've thought about this carefully," Chief Hartwell said, folding his hands. "Vanessa may not be our blood, but she is our child. We raised her. We love her." Mrs. Hartwell nodded. "And we refuse to watch her suffer because of a mistake none of us caused." What they proposed changed everything. The Hartwells introduced Mr. Lowell into the family business. They didn't hand him money, they gave him opportunity, training, partnership, a chance to grow. Slowly, the Lowells' life began to change, not overnight wealth, but stability, dignity, hope. Vanessa no longer felt trapped between two worlds, and Nura no longer felt torn. An agreement was made, simple, human, kind. Weekdays belonged to biological parents. Weekends belonged to the people who raised them. On Saturdays, Nura returned to the Lowell house, laughing loudly, helping in the kitchen, feeling whole again. On Sundays, Vanessa visited the Hartwell mansion, resting in the comfort of familiarity, never feeling abandoned. They were no longer rivals. They were sisters, by fate, by pain, by love. The past stayed where it belonged, and the future finally felt safe. Because in the end, blood explained where they came from, but love decided where they stayed. And they all lived, not perfectly, but peacefully ever after.